Let's talk some Cubs baseball,
All right,
Sylvie.
all right. What do you got for me?
Because on Super Bowl Sunday, while you're stuffing your face, I'm going to be listening to Carter Hawkins and Jed Hoyer. Pitchers and catchers report on Super Bowl Sunday, if you can believe it. The Cubs are the first team to report spring training because they go to Japan, so they're starting early. So they have the whole landscape. Of course, it's on Super Bowl Sunday. In any case, I really want to hear from Cub fans, and you're one of them. Two things, because it is kind of like, what are they exactly? What excites you about the team? And what worries you about the team going into 2025? I think it's time to ask that question as they start up. And yes, the offseason may not be over. They may have some additions, and I'll address that in a moment. But 312-332-3776. What excites you about the Cubs in 25, and what worries you about them in 25? You want to start with that, or you want me to address some of these rumors that are out there?
I'll happily start. Then you could get into some of the rumors and pitchers. And I mentioned before the break, there was a report about Dylan Cease.
Yeah.
What excites me is the possibilities of it coming together with the additions of guys like Kyle Tucker and others that they are putting. It's sort of like one of the same, that they are putting together a pretty good team, and I do believe that will be better than last year. A proven closer who, again, though, has some question marks because of his age and because he's 1 year removed from closing. But they are more talented. They have more proven players. Tucker's by far the best player they've had in a long time. So I do like that fact of putting it all together. What worries me is, are they putting a 1 year team together, 1 year do or die team, when this isn't truly a do or die situation, where it should be a team that's still growing together, where they should be sinking money into 3, 4, 5 year contracts so they can all grow together and take a step. And if they don't win it all, it's not, okay, now it's a reset and Tucker's out the door because you can't afford him. And then now you got to replace a 36-year-old closer and find another closer and give away another asset. And they just continue to punt or not sign the big name free agents and truly grow the team like good teams grow.
And kind of stay in the middle, basically.
Yeah.
Kind of stay in the middle.
Like they're taking like just a swing here, and it may be a little reckless, but there could be a dividend at the end of the season. But if it's not, could really be bad if they don't cash in.
Both points are legitimate. I think what would excite me is that the floor and the ceiling have been raised. Just, Tucker is better than Bellinger, even if it's just a little bit. Certainly Matthew Boyd is better than Hendricks. Like, they have raised everything a little bit at least, and that was their goal. It wasn't to jump from 83 to 96. It was to jump from 83 to 90 if they're lucky. So what excites me is what you said. The compilation is kind of, it looks better than it has in the last few years. What worries me is they still need to thread that needle to get to 90. It still has to.
I hate that term.
We need this to happen. We need that to happen. We need this guy. We need Presley to get the fountain of youth.
Have you ever heard the Dodgers say thread the needle?
No.
Like what great teams are talking about threading needles.
Or exceeding expectations. That's the famous Jed Hoyer thing. So, yeah, I think everything looks a little bit better, but isn't any guarantee. And in this division, you could guarantee yourself something. You could if you really want to put the hammer down. So that's kind of how I look at it. But I'd be really surprised if they win less than 83. Like, at least the floor is getting higher, And I will say, Council's second year. If you believe in Council, then you have to believe the second year the thumb on this team is going to be more. He's going to put that.
There's more owner, and I don't mean like he owns the team.
I know
there's
what you mean. Right.
More ownership for him in this team.
For what's going on around him.
It was still Jed's team, and he was learning it. I feel like now he feels like this is his team.
He's had more of a say in the offseason. This, Colin Ray or whoever, they've added people that he's had a say in and with. So I that kind of excites me, but what worries me is it's still a threading the needle type thing. Now, look, if Milwaukee takes this big step back that everyone, last year we thought, well, that's going to help. But there's the Reds are better under Terry Francona. So there's steps forward, steps backward.
And I hate that too, Jesse. Sorry to interrupt. I hate when with the Cubs you're talking about who could step back. That shouldn't be a part of the equation. Yeah. You should be building the best team possible and saying that we're going to beat them. We're not hoping that they're going to step back.
Yeah. I mean, I think you and I are going to like Ryan Presley in a lot of ways. He's going to be good in the locker room. But I think we'd all agree, and I like Ryan Presley, they didn't go out and get the best closer, and there are a bunch available. Now, this is going to be a good experiment because we're going to see Carlos Estevez, who just signed with the Royals, and we're going to see him, and we're going to see Kyle Finnegan wherever he signs. He hasn't signed yet. We're going to see how all these closers do. And the Cubs probably have the cheapest one because they got some money from Houston. They're paying him $8.5 million. There's other guys signing for 11 and 12 and 13, and we will see. We will see, but they're not. They didn't go out and get the best at everything. They did get the best in Kyle Tucker, so they did some of that, but not in every area they could have improved.
I just hate the fact that you got one of the best players you could get, which I'm happy about. Again, it's that double-edged sword.
Yeah.
I'm happy Kyle Tucker's on the team. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I'm not happy that this could only be a one-year deal.
So let me address a couple rumors that are out there. Look, Alex Bregman, I'd be really surprised. Here's the good thing about the Cubs organization. They are flexible. Like if Jed comes to Tom and says, I really need to do this, I think he gets approval more often than not. Tanner Scott is a great example. They don't like paying closers. They were willing to do that. Dodgers outbid them, of course. But they were willing to go to a number they usually don't. I do think, yes, they could be flexible. And if everything falls apart with Bregman, the Cubs are there, just like they were with Bellinger last year. But I'd be shocked. Bregman has an offer on the table for Houston. Their guarantees him like $150. Why would he come here to reprove himself? He's not going to get more as he gets older. He's only going to get less. So, yeah, hang around. Let's see what happens. So don't believe Bregman's coming here unless, 3 weeks from now he still hasn't signed. Then it starts to become more possible. Now, these pitching rumors with the Padres, the Cubs and many teams have talked to the Padres since the GM meetings because the Padres seemingly need to shed salary, and they have a bunch of guys in the last years of their deals, like Michael King, like Dylan Cease, a couple other guys. So the Cubs aren't the only team, but for some reason, John Morosi pointed them out today about Dylan Cease. From what I've been told, the Cubs and Padres are not a match. They're not a match unless the Cubs want to trade Matt Shaw. If the Cubs want to trade Matt Shaw, they can get any of the Padres players on the last years of their deal. But I will tell you,
for 1 year
I
like
know,
that, I'm not in the business of wanting to trade Matt Shaw either.
No, exactly. And if the Cubs do end up trading for Dylan Cease or someone like that, it's going to be costly. Even if it's not Matt Shaw, it's going to be like three good prospects. And again, they just did that with Kyle Tucker. I don't know if they're willing to do it, and I don't even know if the Padres want anybody that's not named Matt Shaw. That's kind of what I've been told. So we'll see.
Whatever happened to Jed saying he wanted to build a team that every year that was a sustainable window where they could compete every year and hopefully in one of those years they can knock down the wall and win it. Like they did the first time. Build a core and have them play together and take multiple tries, and then they add at the trade deadline if they're in it to help. And then they'll go to the offseason and reassess what that core needs. Well, they're not building a core, and that's what bothers me. Like they have the core of Ian Happ and Seiya Suzuki and Dansby Swanson, but they don't. These other guys, their best players are 1 year guys, or some of the best players are 1 year guys. I don't like that. Like, why? Who in their right mind would ever go out and say, let's get one of the best players in baseball at the age of 27 with no promises past this year?
It's a team that hasn't made the playoffs in a while. Like every team is different, in a different place in their cycle, and it's clear the Cubs want to make the playoffs in 25. Maybe for Jed's job status, and maybe because they haven't made it in a long time, and ownership is pushing them. So that there's good news in that, but it's the phrase sustained success. As I've said to you, like, okay, it has to start though. When does the success start? You can't sustain it until you start it. So I guess 25 would be it. We'll see what happens after that. Maybe Tucker falls in love with Chicago, gives them a discount. I don't know. I don't know.
Like we're relying on that.
Well, I don't know.
Well, what kind of disc? He's going to make $400 million.
Kyle Tucker's going to walk in and smell the onions and fall in love with Wrigley Field.
Look, I don't believe in it. I'm the one that wrote it. on Christmas Eve that they're not signing anybody up past 26 when the new labor agreement comes in. Relatively, they're not signing huge money for anybody past 26. So, yeah, all this is in play. Having said that, they have a great shot to win this division. A great shot. I'm going to go back to what I said a year ago at this time. I think it's the Cubs or Reds, and I'll probably be proven wrong by the Brewers again. I think it's the Cubs or Reds, and we'll see. We'll see. But at least they have a great shot at it. That's better than we could say we've been talking about these other teams in town.
No, I am
cautiously optimistic.
Yes, I was trying to look at the. Like I've been saying about the Bears, that I'm skeptically optimistic. Like a new, I'm a
good term. Yes, I like that.
Because again, like when you get Ben Johnson, you're very excited about Ben Johnson.
But
I'm not going to now all of a sudden decide, oh, we're winning the offseason again. Like I'm still a skeptic.
Yeah.
But I gotta still approve some of these moves, so I'm skeptically optimistic. I guess I'm cautiously optimistic with the Cubs.
I mean, look,
I'm looking forward to a more fun summer with them.
They're fortunate they're not in the Dodgers division. They're fortunate they're not in the Yankees or even the Mets and Braves division. They are. They still lost the division by 10, but at least you can see a way to overtake Milwaukee and beat up on Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. Like there's way you couldn't see that if they were in the Dodgers division. There'd be no way. We'd be not skeptically optimistic. We'd just be skeptical. So yeah, I mean, that's where we are with the Cubs. I do think they're going to add another reliever, but nothing, no one that's going to excite you necessarily. They have their closer. I mean, Presley waived his no-trade clause because he's going to close. Make no mistake about it. He was very respectful to Porter Hodge on the Zoom he did the other day, but he waived it to close. So he's their closer. We'll see what else they add in between. And, yeah, if something opportunistic comes about in the next 3 weeks, they'll jump a guy on the last year of his deal, but it will cost. It will cost.
Tyler, with you and your Cubs tickets, what are you? Are you cautiously optimistic? Are you optimistically optimistic?
Skeptically optimistic?
What are you?
I think that they're going to win the division this year, but I don't know if anything's necessarily set up for long-term success right now.
Right. It's set up. Well, it's funny. Remember, Council said 90 win. Yeah, it's kind of set up to be in that range if they can get there. But it's really not set up to be like 95 or better, which is, the great teams are.
Sign me up for a 90-win summer.
90 wins is fine.
I mean,
no problem.
When you look at the state of what this city is in right now in terms of sports,
90 would be amazing.
90 feels like it's a 15-2 NFL season right now. Right. 90-win baseball team.
Yeah.
I mean, you're selling something that's at least
90 and
worth watching.
72.
You're at least giving me something to look forward to this summer.
Absolutely. If they're a 90-win team, they're in the playoffs. And there'll be a fun team to watch.
Well, let's think about what their pitching was last year. Not saying that it's going to replicate itself, but they had 95-win starting pitching last year. It was really good.
It was good, but they'll tell you the conditions at Wrigley were favorable, for pitching and not so much for hitting. And we'll see what it's like this year. They're better than last year, but how much better is the question? How much better is the question?
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
is it 83 to 86?
I think your best bat in the lineup has certainly improved.
Yeah.
With the addition of Kyle Tucker. I don't know if your best starting pitcher is necessarily going to improve.
No, it has not.
But I would say potentially your worst bats have improved just year in, year out, meaning PCA and Miguel Amaya certainly looked better.
They looked great at the end of the year last year. So you're going to need them to take that or at least hold that line from where they were last year to close in August and September.
PCA is such an interesting cat to me, Sylvie, because he can steal your runs. I mean that literally and metaphorically. Like if he gets on first, he's on third, or at least on second.
Yeah, we were talking.
And there's not a ton of players in the league that can do that day in and day out.
I know they don't want to hand him the
right. I asked Council that.
Yeah,
myself,
Oh, that was your question.
That was my question. Yeah.
The leadoff spot, but ideally, if he's playing well, that's your ultimate leadoff guy.
Yeah, if he proves he can get on base, you got to put him up there.
Yeah,
because that is literally stealing runs late in games too.
Putting pressure on teams.
You're down a run, he draws a walk because he's getting better at that, and all of a sudden he's on third. You can't pass that up late in the game. But he's got to prove himself a little bit more. I get that.
If he could show that he is this dynamic player that we saw for like a month and a half stretch, it's a big step to go all season and prove that. He's going to have some slumps, but still, show me that you're this dynamic player that you showed.
And I think you'd agree. He's one of the few on that team that has that large variance. Like, we know what Happ is. We know what Swanson is. We kind of know what Suzuki is.
Right.
Pete Crow could be really
He's one of the keys
impactful.
to the season.
He really is, in my opinion, to really take that offense to another level. And plus, he has pop and stuff. It's not just running the bases. So in the best version of himself, he has all these things.